everyone. Welcome to the I Believe podcast. I'm Megan, and today we are joined by Jessica, the founder of Mindset Coaching by Jessica Ann. And she is not only an international best-selling author, but an inspirational speaker, and we're thrilled to have her here. Welcome, Jessica.
Hey Megan, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. We are thrilled to talk about mindset and your story, a story of surviving and thriving, which is what we're all about. So let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I feel like I had a pretty normal childhood. I grew up on a small farm in a community called Delta, Utah. My dad was an alfalfa farmer, and I got all the joys of being a kid on a farm, running free through the summer months and just I'm Gen X, so it truly was the case. Like, I left at sun up and didn't come home till sundown, and it felt like a really incredible life. Fast forward into my teenager years, we moved to Las Vegas and then to California. And I met my husband when I was still a senior in high school, got married pretty young, and started having babies a year and a half later. So by the time I was actually 20, I was already a mom, which I love. I love being a mom. That's like the best thing in the world. But going from someone's child to somebody's wife and then somebody's mom, I feel like maybe my own identity got washed out. So I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do, be a good mom. I wasn't a mom that got to stay home with my kids, but I had a really great career in pharmacy. Ended up in pharmacy benefit management, making a really good salary, and I led some pretty incredible people as a senior director of client management and sales. We had a house, we had a boat and cars and all the things. And then tragedy struck my life in September of 2016 after a year of going back and forth to my doctor because I didn't feel well and several misdiagnoses. I was actually diagnosed with cardiac AL amyloidosis, which is a terminal blood illness. Essentially, what happens at a very high level is that our bone marrow makes proteins that go to the rest of our bodies. It's like they're pre-assigned to what they're supposed to do. Well, my body started creating misfolded proteins. So instead of looking like this, they started looking like this. And when that happens, they get sticky and they stick together. And then when they go to other areas of the body, for example, your organs, they stick inside the wall of the organ and cause organ failure. So for me, it attacked my heart, the worst. To some extent, my kidneys, my pancreas, my liver, my GI system, including my throat, my esophagus, my tongue. Like, I was, by the time I finally got a diagnosis, really sick. In fact, the cardiologist that finally found the disease said that I had maybe 8 weeks to live. My congestive heart failure was so far advanced. So it truly is a miracle I'm standing here just for that by itself. The treatment for that is really similar to multiple myeloma. So I had to do a bone marrow transplant and then 10 months of outpatient chemo. And between the two of those, it was successful. It killed the disease process that was creating those misfolded proteins. And the thought or the hope that my providers had was that over time, those proteins that had built up in my heart wall, causing a severely stiff heart, would eventually just kind of dissipate, like my body would absorb them. I'd regain function of my heart, but it would take years. Well, I did all the things that I could possibly think of: healthy eating, movement of my body. I tried to remove stress as much as possible. However, I was in a corporate job, so that's not entirely, um, you can't entirely remove stress when you're in a corporate position reporting to a corporation that expects certain things that may not align with our own values and purpose. But all the other things I was doing felt like if I just do all these things, keep a really positive mindset, I'm going to be okay. Like, I got past the hard part. And then, unfortunately, I started getting sick again, started having some congestive heart failure symptoms. And I started to think, goodness, is this going to be my life? Like, am I just going to have to live with these symptoms and not be able to climb mountains and do all the things that I want to do? And then in January of 2020, I had a massive stroke. And this stroke was so severe that my providers, the neurologists in the intensive care unit, they just weren't even sure if I'd walk or talk again. And I remember when my husband asked that while I'm laying in bed, half in and out of it, just having had a stroke several hours before. I remember he asked, is she going to walk or talk again? And the doctor said, we're just not sure. And I remember thinking, oh, no way, that is not my life. That is not going to happen. And so I was sad, of course, frustrated, angry at the situation. But I knew in my heart that if I were to go to that point and sit there, sit in the sadness, sit in the anger, it wasn't going to help me get better. Yes, I felt those things, but then I started asking myself, well, what is it that you need? And it's when I turned inward and said, well, what is it that you need? That I started being able to push myself forward out of that situation, which was just within a day. I needed to be able to get out of that bed. And so I started pestering people. You know what? I want to sit on the side of my bed. I want to stand by my bed. And eventually, at about the 24-hour mark post stroke, PT came in. They were on one side, had a belt around me in case I did fall. And my husband was on the other side, and we walked around the nurses' station in the neuro ICU that day. Now, I'm not saying it was a pretty walk. In fact, my left leg kind of drug behind me as my right leg did all the work, but I was moving, and I didn't realize how miraculous of a feat that was until I saw the nurses and the doctors on the floor literally drop their jaws in amazement. I never had to go into an extended care facility after that. I was released to home just a couple days after my stroke, and I did all the things: occupational therapy, daily movement, back to the nutrition, the healthy mindset. So, that comes with meditation and affirmations and all of those things. But when I had my stroke, it set off an alarm to my cardiac doctors, and they realized, if her heart isn't pushing blood the way it's supposed to and it's pooling and causing clots, we got to consider putting her on the heart transplant list. So the workup for being put on the heart transplant list started happening within weeks of being inpatient with the stroke. And who knew that that was such a big, undertaking, but the amount of tests you have to do, meeting with psychiatrists and nutritionists and a whole team of experts before they'll sign off and say, yes, she can handle being a heart transplant recipient. And once I was on the list, it took 18 months to get my heart. 15 months of those were spent as an outpatient, and it was during COVID. So I literally was so scared of getting sick because I wasn't healthy. And so for me, getting sick and getting COVID could be very detrimental to my health. And so I became quite the hermit, but a hermit with a really good mindset and just gratitude that I was there, and then I'm just going to have the opportunity to live once I had that heart. And, my mind started getting so curious about all the things I could do once I had my heart.
Castle Biosciences is a proud sponsor of this I Believe podcast. Castle's innovative uveal melanoma tests provide valuable information about the risk of your eye cancer spreading to help you and your healthcare team individualize the management of your disease. To learn more, visit castlebiosciences.com.
But in the meantime, there were things that I couldn't do. And so I figured out things that I could do, other things that I was curious about that maybe didn't have, a physicality attached to it. So I read a lot of books. I started just getting curious about watercolor painting, quilting, baking, cooking, love cooking for my family and for myself. So I did things to keep me in a really high vibration of gratitude and joy. I spent a lot of time with my family and then those friends who were really protective, not getting or bringing illness to me. So all things that were super important. But as those 15 months went by, I started getting sicker. Nothing having to do with, how I was living, but simply my heart was dying. And so I went into the cardiac ICU for the last 78 days of my wait. I'll paint a little bit of a picture. You get a room, which you're not allowed to leave unless somebody's with you. So a provider, an exercise physiologist, or if you're going to x-ray or to the cath lab, those are the only times you get to leave. You have wires sticking down through your throat. You have electrodes all over your body. They're giving you medications that make you feel horrible. And you just sit there with your thoughts. And I did try to work from my hospital bed, literally, up until the day I had my heart transplant. And I was successful. I may not have been the best employee. I'm sure I made a few mistakes. I wasn't getting enough blood to my brain, but I was trying. I was doing my best. And otherwise, I went back to that whole thing. Like, I'm going to make the best of this. And so I did everything I could to really get to know all of my nurses and my doctors. I find out about, if they were parents, if they had dogs, what they liked to do on the side, where was their favorite place to travel. And I became really close with the staff at the hospital while I was waiting. Again, we're right smack dab in the middle of COVID, so outside visitation was hard. I was allowed to have 2 visitors a day, which had to be assigned. So if my daughter and my friend showed up that morning, they're the only visitors I could have all day. Like, you couldn't switch it out at all. So that made it kind of hard. So while I had these really wonderful relationships with the healthcare staff, I still was struggling. And, 30 days turned into 60 days. And about that 60-day mark, I was having a hard time. And so I really had to surrender. And in the evenings, I would ask my nurse just for an hour of time where I wasn't being poked or given drugs or blood pressure taken or anything like that. And I would get up on top of my bed and I would kind of get the wires to where I could kind of put them to the side. I would get in child's pose on top of my bed and I put my hands in prayer position above my head. And I think that really was just about surrendering. I know everybody has a different belief about God, creator, source. I grew up in a very religious home where, it was God and Jesus and the Holy Ghost and all of that. But as I've gotten older, I've become much more spiritual and less about organized religion. But in that time, like, I surrendered to my creator in every way I could possibly think of. And I would ask, why am I here? I've gone through so much and here I am waiting and it's taking so long. I was losing hope and I had had 2 false starts, meaning they had found 2 hearts, but then when they went in to harvest the organ, they found issues with the heart, so I didn't get them, but they did the workup and had me excited that, I was going to have this heart, and then it never panned out. And so I had these ups and downs and this grief, like every time you lost an organ, like it felt like I was grieving someone's death. That's how like emotional that was. And so in these nightly rituals, prayer sessions, whatever you want to call it, I would just completely surrender and I would listen. And in the surrender, there were some affirmations and maybe some meditation attached to that. But finally, one night, clear as day, I had this overwhelming feeling or message that I was here because I meant to help other people. That's my purpose, is to help other people get through adversity. And so I didn't know how, I didn't know what it looked like. I I had absolutely no clue, actually. I didn't know if it was something that was supposed to be my livelihood or something that I just did on the side. Maybe I was supposed to meet with other heart transplants or people that were waiting for heart transplants. But I knew, like, leaving that hospital, that was my purpose. That was my greater purpose that I had been saved for. And so I started getting curious, and I went back to my corporate job and didn't feel happy, didn't feel fulfilled, didn't have passion. And it definitely didn't match my value system or the vision for how I wanted my life to look. But still, I didn't have a clear idea what actually serving others looked like. And in September of 2023, there was some reorganization with leadership for the fifth time since I had been there. And I had a choice to stay with a new title and a new salary structure, or I could take a severance package and go. And I was scared and anxious and didn't know what to do because in the meantime, I had actually separated from my husband before my transplant, and also he had passed away in the Easter right before that. So in April of 2023, he had passed away. So I had nobody to lean back on at all. It was just me. And I was thinking, all right. And then I just kind of got this piece, if you walk away, everything's going to be okay. Like, I got you. Like, this is going to be okay. And so I left and I interviewed for a few jobs within the same pharmacy benefit management niche. And it just wasn't feeling right. Like, I was feeling, I don't know, it just didn't feel like that was the path I was supposed to take. And I had started thinking about, well, maybe I want to write a book, or maybe I want to get up on stages and talk about my experience. Or and then this lady reached out to me, a business coach, and she's like, one day she's just like, Jessica, I keep going past your name and I feel like I'm supposed to reach out to you. What's going on? And I had told her, and I told her kind of what I felt like I was here for, and she said, I can help you with that. And she helped me. She made me believe and know that I could actually be a coach and be an inspirational speaker. And then about that same time, I came across a company, She Rises Studios, SRS Publishers, that was looking for female authors and to publish books. And so I met with them, gave them my idea about my book, and they agreed to publish. And so now I have a book publisher.
Aura Biosciences is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on developing precision therapies for solid tumors that aim to preserve organ function. Our lead candidate, Belsar, is currently in late stage development for primary choroidal melanoma and in early stage development in other ocular oncology indications and bladder cancer. Our mission is to grow as an innovative global oncology company that positively transforms the lives of patients. For more information, please visit us at aurabiosciences.com.
I'm writing a book, and so it just all started falling into place. And I've been incredibly blessed to be able to get on podcasts and grow my Instagram account so that I'm sharing a message of hope and resilience and joy and gratitude. And I would say that my real sweet spot, or my dream audience or client, are midlife women who are feeling kind of stuck. Maybe they've been recently divorced, or maybe they're just empty nesters now and feel like, well, who am I without having kids to take care of every day? Or who am I if I'm not somebody's wife? Or maybe they're just feeling unfulfilled. Maybe they still have kids at home and still have a husband, but still, like, they've done all the things, think they're living that American dream, but just don't feel the joy that they know that they should be feeling. And then I work with these women over the course of 12 weeks, and we really just do a customized coaching program for them and work on 4 pillars basically that really just help them uncover their own passion and purpose in life. And so I feel like I have the coolest purpose in the world to serve other people. And I'm always so grateful to get up on other people's stages, be a podcast guest, because anytime that I can get the word out about how gratitude helps create joy, and joy allows us to be entirely resilient people who can find a life full of purpose and passion, I am so happy to be there.
That is an amazing story. I love all of it. I mean, you've been through so much, and to be able to come out on the other side and be an inspiration to people who are going through not even exactly what you went through, but you went through so many things that I think anyone can relate to some aspect of your story, no matter what their struggle is. So that is really cool to see. And I do want to tell you something. I just did an episode with a psychologist, Dr. Jason Frischman, and he talked a lot about mindset as well. And he has a term called finding the magic in the muck. And I think you found the magic in your muck.
I definitely did. You know, my oncologist and I have had a lot of conversations, and he says that I've even helped him get through, tough times within his own life. He's like, man, if Jessica can get through that with such a positive mindset, then I can. And I've actually asked him to write the foreword of my solo book, because we've talked about how incredible mindset is for surviving like terminal illness and getting through tough times of life. It's truly incredible what the mind can do when working with the body.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And we've had other episodes where we've kind of touched on mindset and the connection between the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, how they all work together,
Yes,
because they do work together.
absolutely. You are absolutely spot on with that.
That's amazing. So tell us about where you're going now. Like, what's next?
Yeah, so I wrote I co-authored a book, an anthology, and it's called My Unforgettable Personal Stories That Will Inspire You, which actually hit the international bestseller list on Amazon, which is super exciting. And it
Congratulations.
was it's been a lot of fun. It's a group of women who've gone through adversities of all sorts and come out the other side feeling resilient and powerful, and helping spread the word to other women so that they also feel empowered to get through tough times. And so I've really enjoyed that. And I am finishing up my solo book. I think I have 2 chapters left. I keep on going. Like, I write and then I'm like, oh, I should go back and add that here because I feel like there's a missing component, but I think I just have 2 chapters left. I was writing in it this morning and thought, okay, we got to be getting close. So I hope to have that out by Mother's Day. And if there's any of your listeners that work for corporate America and they want team building or coaching for their team, I love that. I love getting on stages as a keynote inspirational speaker. So that's always an opportunity. But my love is working one-on-one with midlife women and just seeing the transformation that these women can make from feeling stuck to just really shining at the end of our coaching sessions. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. People can find me on my website. It's Jessica Ann with an E, so JESSICAANNE.org. And on there, I actually have a free gift for your listeners. There's actually several they can choose from. But I think Live Life Loud is one that probably will resonate with your listeners the most. And it's kind of my top 10 tips of just how I get through life with a grateful heart. And goodness, what else? Oh, and if they do sign up for that, then I will actually send out information when my solo book does launch. If that would resonate with your audience, then they know when they can go out and buy that on Amazon as well.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Everybody definitely go check out Jessica's website. And we love a freebie. Thank you so much for offering that. We will definitely check it out. And if somebody wanted to work with you, they wanted to be coached, is your website's the best way to reach you?
Yep, there's a contact section on the bottom of the page that they could reach out to me, and I will make sure I engage with them that way. Or they can also DM me on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is at jrenfeldt, and that's JRENFELDT. And I'm on there every day, so I check my DMs. But if anybody just wants some like inspirational, uplifting content and not the doom scrolling that we've been doing lately, my Instagram account is great for that. I've got a ton of videos about self-care, mindset, community, family. There's all sorts of videos on there that I've done over the past year that I think could be beneficial to your audience.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I will link all of those things in the show notes. So if you are following along, just click over to the show notes and you'll be able to find all of those links. What if somebody wanted to do what you do? Like, there obviously a lot of the people watching this are going through their own health journey. Some of our diagnoses are worse than others, of course, but if somebody was watching this and they're like, this really resonates. I think I'd like to do this. Do you have any recommendations for them, or do you kind of like how that one lady helped you get there? Do you do
Mhm.
that?
I would be more than happy to help. I've definitely learned a ton on my own journey and would be more than happy to help with that. Also, I think what's really important is community. So talk to people, tell people what you're doing, and you would be so surprised how many opportunities you're going to get to talk to and be a guest on somebody's podcast or getting on a small stage. And once that snowball is like rolling, it just kind of blows up. But it's really about putting things out in the universe. I'm I'm a total believer in that. And once you do, things just start showing up. But I would be more than happy to help anybody who's looking to do what I do, kind of point them in the right direction.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. So, Jessica, if someone's watching right now and they just are like, I'm overwhelmed, but I think I could add one change, what is one thing they could do today that they might start to see a benefit from?
Oh, goodness, that's easy and exciting and so simple. Like, I know that all of your audience has heard how important it is to have a gratitude practice. And on and off throughout the years, I started and stopped. And I am sad that I stopped so many times because I will tell you that the benefit of a gratitude practice is just, it's huge and it's simple. All I want your audience to do is get a journal, like a 99-cent journal at the dollar store. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I want it to be dedicated just to collecting your gratitudes every day. And in the beginning, I just want you to find 3 things that you're grateful for. For me, it was really simple stuff: the smell of coffee, a smile from a stranger in the grocery store. But it's what I found is when you raise your vibration in gratitude, like it opens you up to joy. And like I said, I feel like joy is the whole purpose we're on the earth. And as long as we have that joy in our lives, we are such resilient individuals. But you have to cultivate these things. You just can't think that they're going to happen, that you're just going to feel joyful. You have to cultivate it with gratitude. And it's as simple as gratitude plus joy equals resilience.
I love it so much. That's such a great way to look at it. And I also think that the more you look for stuff, the more you see what you're looking for. Like, we've all heard if you look for a red car, then all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere. Because our
Yes.
brain is looking for what we've told it to look for. So when you start to focus on what you're grateful for, then you start to see more things you're grateful for. And you're right, little things like a hot shower that you can get the exact
Yes.
temperature you want. Some days that's like, I'm more grateful for that than anything else.
I know, right? Because some days that's all we have time for, and sometimes we don't even have time for that. So when we do get it, it's amazing. It's like it's beautiful and it's perfect in that moment. And I think that no matter how dark times are, as long as you can find little things to be grateful for, it will get you through tough times.
Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I don't think so, but thank you so much for this opportunity, Megan. I really do hope that it resonates with your audience and that I can instill some hope for them.
Well, and hope is what it's all about. So we are thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for your time and being here. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for tuning in because we cannot do this podcast without you. Your viewership is what funds our podcast through all of our sponsors. And that goes right into my next point. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Our sponsors are amazing. They are what make it a possibility to make this podcast for you. So by viewing, you bring the sponsors, and thank you to the sponsors. So that keeps us up and running so that we can bring you great content like Jessica. So if you would like to also help support us, you can subscribe. If you're on YouTube, you can watch the video version. Please subscribe. If you are listening, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere you get a podcast. Again, please subscribe. It really does help. Follow us on our socials. You can find us on pretty much all the platforms. If you find one we're not on, please let me know because I think we're on them all. And yeah, I guess we'll just wrap up there. Everyone, we are thrilled to bring you another great episode and thrilled that you were here to watch it. So we'll see you next time.